Hi and welcome to AppExchange Mavericks. My name is Mike Martin. I'm a Salesforce MVP and the Director of Delivery at the Indianapolis office for Aperio. I'm here today with Doug from Conga. Doug, please introduce yourself and share a little bit about Conga.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Doug Rybacki, Chief Product Officer at Conga. Conga is a company that was born on the AppExchange about 11 years ago with the original intent to help customers create mailing labels from the data inside of Salesforce to be able to communicate with those customers. Over time, we've built a bunch of applications that help those same customers create documents to communicate with the customers, to collaborate on those documents with the customers, to manage their contracts, and to manage their workflows.
That's great. I'm super familiar with Conga Composer, but why did you build Conga Contracts?
Great question, Mike. So I got here about 3 years ago to Conga, and first thing we did is we sat down and listened to what the customers were saying as their request to help mature the product and the product set. We analyzed our data around how they were using the product, and we found that being able to create documents, contracts, was one of the #1 things that they did. Thousands of customers creating contracts. But they wanted to be able to negotiate them, to redline them, to manage through that process, to close those deals. They were also looking for a way to make that process feel really easy to start with, but then be able to scale up to enterprise contracts. They wanted it to fit really well with inside of the Salesforce ecosystem, but also with CPQ. And so we designed that system in conjunction with the Salesforce team and some of our other partners to be a great fit for that market and with Composer.
That's awesome. What are some of the key use cases for Conga Contracts?
The primary and most obvious use case is around sales processes. How customers are using Salesforce and typically CPQ to quote and contract with their customers around what they sell, goods and services. So what they'll do is they'll use the data inside of Salesforce and potentially CPQ to generate those quotes and agreements with Conga Contracts and Composer. They'll send it for negotiation, manage the negotiation process with Conga Contracts. They'll be able to see all the changes in the documents and how that changes the clauses that they use and the terms and conditions and the data values within that contract. And they can update all that data back into Salesforce. The other types of use cases are typically around how people expand what Salesforce can do as a computing platform. So think about governments that are managing the process of negotiating economic development grants. That's one use case. Another one that's probably more common is companies using Salesforce for HR processes. So they might negotiate the process of offer letters for a new employee or how they promote an employee and manage through that negotiation process.
Very cool. Are there any customer success stories you can share?
There's a lot of great stories to share. I'd like to share one in particular. A customer of ours, Smart Focus, came to talk to us, share their story at Sales Kickoff for our team in February. So they've been under a big digital transformation project where they had a bunch of different systems that they were using to manage their revenue process. And they decided to consolidate that into the Salesforce platform. And so they chose Salesforce, CPQ, some Conga products, and a professional services automation tool. And what they were seeing as part of their problem set is they weren't able to manage their communications in a transparent way to help their customers through how they booked their deals and got them onboarded. So they're leveraging Conga Contracts as a key part of that as they create their quotes and contracts to negotiate those deals and provide transparency to help them get closed and manage the process so that all their systems are staying in tune throughout the process. They were seeing that with so many different systems, they didn't have visibility to their contracts. Those systems were not in sync, and they weren't able to manage that process very effectively. But now with Conga Contracts, CPQ, Salesforce, and the professional services automation tool, they've been able to manage the process of creating those quotes, managing through the contract processes, all the way through negotiation, close, and onboarding of those customers in a much better way. They're managing their customer communication processes in a much more connected way that resonates with their brand.
That's a great story. Can we see it in action? How about a demo of Conga Contracts?
Sure thing, Mike. Let's go do that. Let's start on viewing the contract itself. So up to this point, we've looked at the opportunity and we're in the process of being ready to create a contract. So we can see the terms and clauses that are going to be used in the contract. Let's go ahead and select to generate a contract and send it. We can see that that shows up in the contract activity. All right, so when we send that, our recipient is going to receive an email with a contract attached. They have a simple process where they download the contract, they modify it in Word, attach it to a reply email, and send it back. Conga Contracts is going to receive that contract and automatically attach it to the right contract and be able to show you the differences between what you sent and what they modified. So let's take a look what that looks like. So we see on the contract activity here, there's a new negotiated item. Let's go into View Redlines and see the differences between the language we proposed and what they offered back. Now let's open it in Word. We can make changes here and save it automatically back to the system. If we choose to negotiate, we can use our clause playbook to automatically switch out clauses in the document. As we go into TrueUp, we can look at the different pieces of data that were changed, whether they be data items or clauses, highlight those, and then we can update the data from the original data that's in the opportunity or the quote and have it updated so we're going to fulfill the right thing. We can also look at the standard and non-standard clauses that were used during the revision history. And lastly, let's look at the business insights we can find here. Expiring contracts, what types of things have been negotiated, what are the value of those contracts, where are our bottlenecks. Now we can use all this data that's been instrumented through Conga Contracts to better tune our processes of helping our customers get on board with our products and do that more smoothly and efficiently.
Those business insights about the negotiation process will be really helpful. Where can we go to learn more about Conga Contracts?
Well, of course, on the AppExchange, and you can also find us on getconga.com.
Great. Thanks for joining us today on AppExchange Mavericks.
Thanks, Mike.